Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every single day of the week, to have you guys joining me here for my show. You know, it is Saturday. It's the start of a brand new weekend. I hope you guys have a lot of good things planned for yourselves. Maybe kick back, relax a little bit, spend some time with friends and families, and maybe go see a movie or two. I finally got to see The Disaster Artist last night. And I'm going to put up my review for it a little bit later. I'll just say right now, though, I really liked it. But anyway, I'll talk more about that on my review. That'll go up on my channel a little bit later today. Now, here's how today's show is going to go, guys. I have picked out 5 topics from topics that you guys have emailed into me. Now, how do you get a topic or a question on the John Campea Show? It's really quite simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put the word topic in the subject line, or else I'm not going to see it. And as always, guys, of course, keep your emails to 90 words or less, or else I'm not even going to bother reading them, because I wouldn't even be able to fit them on the screen even if I wanted to. Okay, now after I'm done those topics, for those of you guys who are watching live, I'm going to take your live comments and opinions and questions, and I'll simply tell you as we're getting closer to the end of the show that I'm going to save a little bit of time for your live comments, and you're going to get your live comments on by simply tweeting to me at John Campea. It's just that simple. Don't send them in yet. I'll tell you when to start sending those in. Now, one of the things that YouTube's enabled is, for those of you guys who are watching live, they do have that super chat thing, and I've made it a habit to make sure I mention everybody who puts in a super chat, and I missed one yesterday during the Weekly Hero Show, so I want to just get to that right now really quick. And that was a super chat that was put in by PNZ Movies, who asked, do you think we could see Jigsaw in Punisher Season 2? Unfortunately, PNZ, I can't really talk about that much without getting into spoilers of Punisher Season 1, because a lot of people haven't had a chance to see Punisher Season 1 yet, so I can't go into that. So, without being able to go into detail, I will simply say, yes, I believe it's totally possible and feasible that we see Jigsaw in Season 2 of Punisher. And that's all I can say about that right now. But thanks a lot for sending in that super chat. All right, guys, with that out of the way, let's get started with the first topic of the day. And the first topic today comes into us from Šárka Vajnerová, who writes, hey, John, I dare you to pronounce my name correctly. I'm terrible with names. Everybody knows that. I'm a fan from the Czech Republic. Well, thank you so much for writing in, man. I grew up watching the 90s X-Men cartoon, and I loved it. I like X-Men movies, but I was really disappointed in the portrayal of my favorite character, Gambit. I was looking forward to his solo movie, but I don't hear any news anymore. Is that all still happening or not? Well, yeah, I mean, we all remember, of course, Gambit from that X-Men Origins movie, which unfortunately didn't really turn out the way that we wanted it to turn out, and which is really too bad, because Taylor Kitsch, who played Gambit in that X-Men Origins movie, X-Men Wolverine movie, Taylor Kitsch could have been a really good Gambit. Taylor Kitsch is a great actor, and he could have been really good, but they made so many mistakes. And you know what the funny thing is that what they did with Taylor Kitsch's Gambit wasn't even the worst thing they did to a character in that movie, and we all know which one that was. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. That, I mean, you take the merc with a mouth, and what do? You sew his mouth shut. That is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so if you guys have been following the drama when it comes to this Gambit movie, Channing Tatum signed up to do it ages ago. And they had a director on, and then they had a release date, and then they had a start production date. And then the start production date got pushed. Then there was drama about whether or not the budget was too high, and Fox wasn't comfortable with the budget for it. And then all this kind of stuff. And then there were big questions about whether Channing Tatum was even doing it. And then they lost their director. And then everything went dead silent. Now, a couple of months ago, though, that silence got broken. They now have a release date for the Gambit movie, and that's going to be February 14th, 2019, right around that same window of time that the first Deadpool movie dropped. So they've had some success there. Channing Tatum is on. He's completely attached to do it. And Gore Verbinski is directing the film. Now, Gore Verbinski directed the first bunch of Pirates of the Caribbean films. That's what he's best known for at any rate. So he's directing. Now, I haven't heard anything else since, but at this point, no news is probably good news. Now, this all came out in October. So this is all relatively recent news. So we haven't heard anything since, but that's totally fine. We wouldn't expect to hear anything. As a matter of fact, not hearing anything since that is probably the best thing possible. So as of right now, everything. Now, the only thing that could throw a wrench in this is all these talks about, is there a possibility that Disney may buy a bunch of Fox's assets off of them, including their movie division? And it's important to keep in mind, Disney is not in talks to buy Fox. That's a very important distinction. Disney is not in talks to buy Fox. They are in talks to buy a bunch of Fox's assets off of them. So there's a big difference between the two, but one of those big assets is a huge chunk of their movie division, which would probably include the whole X-Men universe thing. So at this point, I think the only thing that could throw a wrench in the X-Men or in the Gambit plans is if Disney did take over Fox's movie division and decided they don't want a Gambit movie. That's the only thing that I can see happening at this point that would upheaval this. So we'll just have to sit and wait and see as to what happens. But as of right now, everything appears to be full steam ahead. Everything appears to be going according to plan. So we'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. We move on now to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Jessica Kang, who writes, I wanted to know your thoughts on the upcoming Lucille Ball biopic. As a huge Lucille Ball fan, it amazes me that they haven't done a proper biopic of her yet. She has such a fantastic life, and I would love to see the backstage drama told without any sugarcoating. Love your insight and your logic, and of course, keep bringing on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jessica. And here's the thing about Lucille Ball. And I think a lot of people don't understand this because Lucille Ball is before my time. Lucille Ball is before your time. Most of you, anyway, who are watching this. But there's no getting around this. If there was a seat of gods amongst Hollywood, and there was like a trinity of thrones at the seat of the Mount Olympus of the gods of entertainment, make no mistake about this, Lucille Ball's is one of those thrones. Lucille Ball is a god of entertainment. All right? Like what she did, not just for women in entertainment. I hear a lot of people always talk about what she did for women in entertainment. And yes, absolutely, she did a lot for women in entertainment. But what she did for entertainment, period, full stop, can never be over-exaggerated. You just can't exaggerate what that woman did for entertainment. She revolutionized entertainment. And you watch her stuff now, you will get sucked down a black hole. If you start looking up some of the best clips of Lucille Ball, you will spend all weekend just doing that. Because she was the best that's ever done it. She was simply the best. And she was so far ahead of her time. I remember I was in my late teens when I finally got around to really discovering Lucille Ball's stuff that my parents would talk about all the time, but I really got into it, and I was just enamored with it. Some of the greatest comedy sketches ever done in history, some of the most iconic television moments in history. She changed the game, not just for women, and a lot of people will think that just because she's a woman, but she changed the game, period, full stop. And I think, I have nothing to back this with. This is just me making some assumptions here. I think one of the reasons we haven't seen any kind of a biopic or whatever about Lucille Ball up to this point is who the hell wants to take that risk? Who wants to do that? Because Lucille Ball is a god. And who wants to be the one to roll the dice and take the risk that you become the one that screws up a biopic on Lucille Ball? Ain't nobody wants to take that risk. Like, nobody wants to do that. I think that's one of the reasons. Then probably another reason is like whoever owns the rights to it probably wasn't ready for one to be done. I mean, Lucille Ball didn't die all that long ago. So that all these things probably came into consideration. So now we've got a Lucille Ball movie coming. The rights to it were picked up by Amazon Studios, and Amazon Studios just did The Big Sick, which is one of the best films of the year. So they picked that up, and one of the best actresses alive today, probably my number two, either my number two or number three best actress alive today, Cate Blanchett, is attached to play Lucille Ball. which is absolutely huge. And then it's being written by probably one of the best, most celebrated screenwriters in Hollywood. Aaron Sorkin wrote the screenplay with it for it, and that's got everybody excited and buzzing. And the rights have landed at Amazon. So that movie's coming. I can't wait. I mean, look, you get one of Hollywood's best screenwriters. Then you get one of the industry's all-time best actresses playing the lead role. We still don't know who's going to play Desi Arnaz. We don't know who are going to play the two wacky neighbors. We don't know who's going to do any of that stuff. But, I mean, it's already on good footing. Amazon Studios is cranking out some really good stuff. Great screenwriter, great lead performer. I cannot wait for this. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I know she's before all of our times. But if you haven't sat down and just tried to watch some hours worth of Lucille Ball, then treat yourself and educate yourself and watch some Lucille Ball, and you'll see why I'm saying she's an absolute god in the world of entertainment. All right, hey, listen, I got a couple of super chats that are coming in here, so I want to get to those really quick. One super chat came in from Rob McDonald, who wrote, as a fellow wrestling fan, who are your three favorite wrestlers of all time? In no particular order, of all time, Tito Santana, Triple H, and probably The Rock. Those are probably my three all-time favorite wrestlers. And another, so thank you, Rob McDonald, for sending in that super chat. I appreciate it. And Alex Gerber is also sending in a super chat, and he says, John, you're my favorite content creator. Thank you so much. My question, are you excited for the Post I Sure Am? And if you don't know what the Post is, it just won the National Board of Review's award for Best Film of the Year. It's being directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. If you were creating the all-star lineup, like the Hall of Fame lineup to do a movie together, Spielberg, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep together. Boom, there you go. And I think Bob Odenkirk's in there as well. So that thing's coming out. Like I said, the first major Critics Society, the National Board of Review, we talked about this on the John Campea Show the other day. They mentioned that they just gave out their Best Film Award. That went to the Post. And I believe they gave Best Actor to Tom Hanks and they gave Best Actress to Meryl Streep. So considering that, to me, Steven Spielberg is the greatest filmmaker of all time. You know he's my favorite filmmaker of all time. You're damn right I'm excited. I cannot wait to see this movie. I'm just bubbling over. And another super chat has come in here from Andrew Gifford, who writes in, hey John, should Supergirl be in Man of Steel 2 to show Cal he's not alone? It could be fun. Maybe we get the destruction of Krypton scene from Kara's point of view. I don't think so. And honestly, at this point, I've got serious doubts that Man of Steel 2 is even going to happen. They did set up a Kara Jor-El kind of thing in that pre-Man of Steel prequel comic book. For those, I've talked about that a number of times. So they set up Kara. She came to Earth like 10,000 years before Superman ever got here. In the comic, at any rate. Whether or not they still say that's canon, who knows. But the big issue, though, is I'm not even sure there's going to be Man of Steel 2. I think Warner Brothers is seriously considering doing exactly what I said they should do, which is reboot this damn thing. But we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. All right, let's get on now to the next official question of the day. And the next official question today comes to us from Taylor Petcher, who writes, I've watched the Infinity War trailer a few times. I enjoyed it, but one thing gave me pause at the end of the trailer. You have the Avengers running at another army of faceless cannon fodder monsters. Do you think this is the climax? I hope not, because this has been a trope ever since the first Avengers, and is kind of becoming tiresome. What do you think? Well, I mean, Taylor, I appreciate what you're saying, and you're not wrong in saying that, hey, look, in the first Avengers, we had the Chitauri army. In the second Avengers, we had the Ultron bots, and now in this one, we've got another kind of alien race and all that kind of stuff. And are we getting tired of this Marvel trope? Well, this isn't a Marvel thing. Cannon fodder is an age-old Hollywood tool. You have to have cannon fodder for any kind of big, like, did you like Braveheart? Braveheart is nothing but huge armies of faceless, nameless cannon fodder that run at each other and kill each other. Did you like Saving Private Ryan? That's nothing but a whole slew of nameless Nazi cannon fodder marching in to become, you know, tools, or marching in to become target practice for the heroes to show that they're heroes. Did you like, I don't know, anything in Star Wars? There's a bunch of nameless, faceless stormtroopers. Did you like, I mean, anything you name, The cannon fodder is not a Marvel thing. Cannon fodder is an age-old. It doesn't matter if you go back to Bridge on the River Kwai, if you go back to Zulu, or if you go back to any of the great epic motion pictures, whether you go back to Cleopatra, whether you go back to the Ten Commandments, whether you go back to Spartacus, whether you go back to, oh damn, what was the one with the chariot races? Ben-Hur. Whether you go back, and those Hollywood movies are filled with cannon fodder. That's what they do. And that's a tried and true thing, because look, if you want a mechanism in your movie to let your heroes show off themselves being heroic, then you need multiple enemies. And you can't spend 18 hours in a movie developing 43 individual villains that the Avengers or the Justice League or the X-Men or the Magnificent Seven or the Seven Samurai or the Dirty Dozen can come in and wipe out. You can't do that. So you have a bunch of nameless, sometimes faceless, cannon fodder that you need in your movies to set that up, to let that happen. And who doesn't want to see a big epic battle scene with one huge alien army, one huge Wakandan army? Bang! Of course they do. Do we see that in a lot of the movies? Yes, but we see that in a lot of all big Hollywood movies that have big epic battle scenes. You just gonna have cannon fodder characters, and that's a necessary tool. It's a necessary tool. So don't trick yourself into thinking this is a Marvel thing. This is a Hollywood thing. And it's not a bad thing either, as long as it's done right and as long as it's used right. I mean, I don't care if the Justice League's got to fight 50 gazillion parademons. You need cannon fodder. You need cannon fodder. And if you use it right, it's just like any other tool in a filmmaker's tool belt, whether it's comedy or visual effects or some kind of dramatic hook. It's just another tool in the filmmaker's tool belt, and if it's used well, it's great. So no, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I get where you're coming from, and I understand what you're saying, but to me, it doesn't bother me one bit. All right, guys, there's a couple of more super chats that came in I want to get to here. James B. writes in, Lucille Ball was also instrumental in giving us the original Star Trek series. Look, seriously, read up. Thank you so much for bringing that up, James. Read up on the history of Lucille Ball. If you want to know how really her fingers got into everything in Hollywood and influenced where we are today, it is kind of crazy, both from style and content and substance. Lucille Ball was just, like I said, I can't emphasize enough. She was a god, man. She was an absolute god. So you go check that out. Thanks for bringing up that point, James B. I really appreciate that. And also, Chua Sang writes in 2 questions. 1, when's your Disaster Artist review coming out? My Disaster Artist review is coming out a little bit later today, before the UFC starts tonight, because I got a bunch of people coming over to watch the UFC tonight. So that will be going up a little bit later today. Number 2, are you doing a trailer review on the new Batman Ninja trailer? No, not going to do a trailer review of that. It's not a major motion picture. I generally don't do trailer reviews for direct-to-home video things. Not that there's anything wrong, and not that the Batman trailer Ninja review isn't great. I haven't watched it yet. It's funny because Anne was just asking me, have you watched the Batman Ninja trailer yet? I said, no, not yet. So I'm sure it's magnificent. I'm sure it's great. I hear everybody buzzing about it. But generally speaking, I do trailer reviews. When I do trailer reviews, and I don't do a lot of them, I usually do them for big, major, wide release pictures. That's the ones I do them for. But thank you so much for asking the question. And Alex Gerber is asking, this is ironic, but you should probably round up all the super chat and read them at the end. It kind of details the show sometimes. I think you probably mean delay the show sometimes. And maybe, but if I don't get to them when they pop up, then I sometimes miss them. So I want to make sure I get them when they do. All right, let's move on now to the next official email that's come in today. And this next one comes to us from Elijah Brown. And Elijah Brown writes, hey, John, Deadpool 2 will definitely be a smash hit next year, or at least that's what I assume. How do you think the film will hold up against a super blockbuster like Infinity War? 2018 is certainly packed with comic book movies, a lot of competition. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, remember my whole philosophy on this whole thing about competition. I think Infinity War is only going to help the other comic book movies coming out that year. I think the Black Panther coming out fairly soon is only going to help other comic book movies. You know, some people would say to me, John, you talk about this, how a rising tide raises all ships, and when one good comic book movie comes out that everybody enjoys, it helps the other comic book movies coming. And then I had some people writing to me on Twitter and saying things like, but John, I mean, Thor Ragnarok came out and everybody seemed to like it. It's got huge rave reviews from critics. It's got huge audience scores. It did great at the box office, but it didn't help Justice League. Well, no, actually it did help Justice League. Because my contention is this, and I think it's fairly obvious. If it wasn't for Thor being out and being so great and people having such a great time at Thor and therefore wanting to motivate a lot of them to come back to the movie theaters, I think Justice League would have made even less. I really do. I really think if it wasn't for Thor Ragnarok opening up a few weeks before Justice League, and there was no other comic book movie there, and Justice League just came out and just dropped, it's my contention that Justice League would have made even less than it did. I mean, having a good Thor movie doesn't guarantee that every other comic book movie is going to make $150 million opening weekend. I've never said that, but I do believe it helps. And I firmly believe that because, I talk to a lot of people. I mean, I've talked to people who had a great time at Thor and asked me directly, when's the next comic book movie? Well, actually, Justice League is coming out in a couple of weeks. Super, I'm going to go see it. And, there you go. So whether it would have made 89 million or 91 million instead of 94, I don't know, but I truly believe it would have made less. So I don't believe that there being other big comic book films coming out in 2018, I don't believe that's going to hurt Deadpool as long as those comic book movies are pretty good. Like if Black Panther comes out and totally sucks, that could actually hurt. That'll hurt the whole genre. Now, it won't kill the genre, but it certainly won't help. If, Infinity War comes out and it sucks, and hey, look, Infinity War could suck. The trailer's great, but how many times have we seen great trailers to terrible movies? Infinity War could suck. I highly doubt it'll suck, but it's possible. If that does happen, that will hurt the whole genre. Not kill the whole genre, but it'll hurt. Whether it hurt a little or a lot, who knows, but it'll hurt. It'll have an effect. But I got a feeling, a lot of these movies coming out in 2018 look really good. I think it's just going to create a lot of positive momentum. I think people are going to dig it. Now, the first Deadpool movie made in the neighborhood of $781 million worldwide, which is great. For an R-rated Deadpool movie, nobody in their right mind, me included, would have dreamed that Deadpool was going to get anywhere near that type of a box office total. Anybody who said they thought it would, was lying to you or trying to sell you something. But the result was great. How much more will it do? I'm not sure. I still don't think, because of the R rating and all that kind of stuff, I don't think we're going to see Deadpool 2 join the $1 billion club. But I do think it's going to be quite good. I do think people are going to enjoy it. And I think people will be on board for it. I'm very excited. But no, I don't think all the other comic book movies coming out in that year, I do not think are going to hurt Deadpool at all. I think it'll be totally fine. All right, guys, let's move on now to the final official emailed in question of the day. And the final emailed in question today comes to us from Roger Daltrey, who writes, there are reports that Bryan Singer has gone AWOL several times during the shooting of the Queen biopic, and Fox has just halted production because of Singer's quote-unquote unexpected unavailability. His publicist put out a statement that it's because of a family health matter. My question is, do you believe him, or is there a deeper problem happening here? I really want a great Queen movie. All right, well, thanks a lot for the question, Roger. And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, there's been a Queen biopic in development for, it feels like, almost a decade. And for the longest time, Sacha Baron Cohen was signed on to play the lead. He was supposed to be the lead in the Queen biopic. And then directors came and went, screenwriters came and went, and then Sacha Baron Cohen eventually became unattached. Now the lead actor in it is, what's his name? Maleki or something like that. Anyway, the dude from iRobot is the lead in the show now. And Bryan Singer, the director of X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, the director of one of my top 10 all-time favorite films, Unusual Suspects. I'm sure that's on a lot of your lists. He's directing it. Now, what is true and what is not true is a little muddy and a little cloudy right now. I'll tell you what I've been reading. What I've been reading from major trades, not on Reddit or little rag gossip magazines, but what I've been reading in trades like The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and things like that, is that there are reports going around that Bryan Singer several times during the shooting of the Queen biopic has just not shown up. And I believe the report in Deadline specifically says he didn't show up for 3 straight days. And then finally, Fox just stopped production. I mean, you had to do something. The director's not showing up. Bryan Singer's publicist says it has to do with a health matter with him and his family, and that hopefully he'll be able to return shortly after the holidays. Now, also in these reports in the magazines are saying that Fox is contemplating just replacing Bryan Singer at this point as the director of the film so they can get this film finished and put out in theaters. So that's the reports going on right now. What is really going on? I'm not sure, because then I keep reading and they're saying that, hey, no, there have been whispers around a number of Bryan Singer sets that he would just sometimes go days with just not showing up at set. Now, this is very odd. And professionally, I'm a big fan of Bryan Singer, his work. Again, Usual Suspects is one of my top 10 favorite films of all time. I love that he launched the X-Men franchise and what he's done with the X-Men franchise. I'm a big fan of all that stuff. I loved his Valkyrie movie they did with Tom Cruise. I think he's a terrific director. But you start hearing stuff like this, like a director who just goes days without even showing up. I mean, that's concerning, right? Like, that becomes a bit of an issue. So I don't know what the real truth behind it is. I don't know why, we're getting one statement from the studio, which is all of a sudden we're halting production because of the unexpected unavailability of Bryan Singer. So I find it odd, if it's because of a health issue in Bryan Singer's family, why didn't the studio include that in their press release? Why didn't the studio, in saying Bryan Singer, we're halting production because of the unexpected unavailability of Bryan Singer, why not mention health issues in his family? That would seem to make sense. And it isn't until later that his publicist puts out a thing saying, oh, it's because of health. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's exactly the way Bryan Singer's publicist is saying it is. Maybe that's exactly what it is. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's some deeper issues going on. I'm not sure at this point. As a Bryan Singer fan, I'm going to keep my eye on it and because I'm very curious to see what the issue is here, and we'll see how that all unfolds. All right, guys, that will do it for the emailed in topics that you guys have sent in to me. And now we're going to segue into the part where I take your guys' live questions via Twitter. If you're on Twitter, send on in your questions now. Once again, tweet to me at John Campea. Send on in your tweet, and I will get to just as many of your tweets as I possibly can. And maybe you'll see your tweet pop up here on the bottom of the screen. Now, right before we get to that, it is that time of the show where I take my obligatory, shameless plug. It's a 1-minute commercial break to talk about the only thing that keeps the lights on around here, which is my Patreon supporters. So here, check this out. We'll be back in 1 minute. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. All right, guys, so again, a special thank you to all of you who are already Patreon supporters. Again, you guys are the ones who make this show even possible, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you guys. Okay, now, with all that out of the way, let's get to your Twitter questions, and we're going to start off. Oh, first of all, let me mention a couple more Super Chats came in. Christian Renteria wrote in, love your work. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. Like, seriously, a lot of people forget, I may appear to have it all together, and I'm the perfect specimen. I am the man. But really, I'm a human being with an ego and fragile, insecurities and stuff like that. And it really means a lot to me when somebody like you will take a moment to say that you appreciate it. And you have no idea what that means to me. Thank you so much. Eric Flynn wrote in, if DC reboots, they should start with a similar heroes and build up, or will there already have been enough time? Could a soft reboot work this way? Well, Eric, look, I've said for a long time, I believe that the best way for the DCEU to reboot is with Matt Reeves' Batman. Look, you've got a terrific filmmaker like Matt Reeves. All right, you got him on board. I would have preferred a Ben Affleck directed Batman, but Matt Reeves is a great director. So you got him on board. You already know you're going to get a new Batman because Ben Affleck isn't coming back. We've known that for like almost a year now. So you're going to have a brand new Batman. Matt Reeves is there. Start with a new Batman trilogy. Start there and then build out from there. That's the way I think they should do it anyway. That's my opinion on that. Thanks a lot for the question, Eric. Andrew Gifford is writing in. Again, Last Jedi explores ancient Jedi history. Could Rian Johnson's trilogy be about the first Force users and formation of the Old Republic? I don't think so. I would love it if they would go back to like Old Republic days. I mean, well, the origins of the Force users would go back even prior to the Old Republic, depending on which mythology they decided to use. So I don't think they're going to go that far back in time. I think it's probably going to be within a 50-year span of where we are currently. That's just my guess. I'm not basing that on anything. That's just my guess. All right, let's go to our first tweet. And our first tweet today comes to us from Blu-ray Billy. And Blu-ray Billy writes in, if The Last Jedi gets terrible reviews, does it even make $1 billion? No doubt in its sleep. If The Last Jedi comes out and it gets terrible reviews, then there's a big question mark as to whether it gets $2 billion. Because right now, that's the question. Will The Last Jedi hit $2 billion? It's possible. I wouldn't put money on it hitting $2 billion, but it's totally possible. If it gets really bad reviews, does it even hit $1 billion? No doubt. No question. It hits $1 billion easy. The question, but it certainly won't. If it gets terrible reviews, it certainly won't hit $2 billion. But there's a couple of extenuating circumstances here we got to keep in mind. Number one, we know Disney is thrilled with this movie. Disney is thrilled with it. How do we know that? Because even before this movie came out, they were so impressed with the job Rian Johnson did, they signed him up to do another trilogy of movies. Disney doesn't just do that easily. Disney clearly loves The Last Jedi. They are thrilled with it. So with they're that confident in it and they're that thrilled with it, I have a very hard time believing that the audience would hate it. Like maybe the audience won't love it as much as Disney does, but I have a very hard time believing that the audience wouldn't at least quite like the film. So there's that to keep in mind as well. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Panikin Crybaby, who I love that Twitter name, by the way. Panikin Crybaby writes, why would good Marvel movies help a widely thought of bad DC franchise? Well, you got to take it on an individual basis, okay? Remember, the majority of the average movie-going audience doesn't make a distinction in their head very clearly. I mean, yeah, they know Marvel is one thing and DC's another. Yeah, basically. But they don't make the clear division that a lot of us hardcore fans do, right? All they know, like to my dad, it's just another comic book movie's coming out. That's all. He doesn't care about the DC label. He doesn't care about the Marvel label. He's just, it's a comic book movie. There's a comic book movie coming out. And if he likes the last comic book movie, if he went to a comic book movie and had fun and had a good time at it and got some kicks and enjoyed himself, then when the next comic book movie comes out, he's more likely to want to go back out and see another one if he had a really good time at the last one. So if, like, let's say Avengers Infinity War comes out, and let's say Aquaman was coming out 1 month after that. I'm just making up a scenario here, but let's say that's the case. Then what happens if my dad goes to see Infinity War, and he hates it, has a terrible time, feels, and remember, he's an average film goer, he feels like he wasted his money going to that movie, then a month later when Aquaman's coming out, he's just going to look at it and go, another comic book movie? No thanks, just still got the bad taste in my mouth from that last one. However, if he has a great time, I'm going to get your mother. I'm going to take your mother. That's my dad in his kind of deep, semi-Italian accent. I'm going to take your mother. And I'm going to take your mother to go see it. I had a good time last time. That's what my dad would do, right? So my dad would go and get my mom because he had such a great time last time. So we'll go to see another one. Again, it's not night and day difference. It's not night and day difference. It's not like a great Infinity War movie will make that Aquaman movie open to $200 million, but it's a difference. And if you start accumulating that up over time and you start creating massive momentum one way or the other, like again, it's that whole saying that a rising tide raises all ships, a lowering tide lowers all ships. So it helps. How much it helps and how much it hurts, that's up for debate, but there's definitely an impact. There's definitely an effect. All right, got a super chat came in from one of my longtime viewers. Riley Johnson writes, "Hey John, big fan since the AMC days. What do you think about gray Jedi? Do you think they are taking that direction with Luke and Rey?" No, I do not. I've had that discussion with a lot of people that, first of all, most people don't even know what gray Jedi is. Okay, so there's that. I do not believe at all in any way, shape, or form that they're going to introduce gray Jedi. I don't think they're going to do that. Because even amongst the ambiguity and the questioning stuff like that, there is clearly good and there is clearly evil in the Star Wars universe. Even in these trailers, there's clearly good and there's clearly evil. And I do not think, now I could be wrong. Gray Jedi is a thing they've used in the expanded universe. Gray Jedi is the stuff that they've used before. That is something they could do. It's theoretically possible. I just don't see it happening. So I would put my $5 on them not doing it, but I'm not going to tell you it's impossible because it's not impossible. It's certainly a possibility, but I just don't think that's the way they're going to go with it. Let's see. Matt Gilliam writes, "Greetings from Kingston, Ontario. I love Kingston, Ontario. Good university town. I used to go there to try to pick up girls, very unsuccessfully, I might add. When I was younger, I love Kingston. We've got the big Rideau Lake up there. I used to have a cottage out there, actually. I love the Kingston area. Anyway, I'm getting caught up in thinking about Kingston, Ontario. Anyway, Matt is writing in, "Greetings from Kingston, Ontario. Who's your favorite Jack Ryan?" Mine was Harrison Ford. Thanks. Yeah, Harrison Ford was definitely the Jack. And look, I think Ben Affleck was a good Jack Ryan. I think Chris Pine was a good Jack Ryan. I think Alec Baldwin was a good Jack Ryan. But absolutely, Harrison Ford was the Jack Ryan. I mean, to me, no doubt about it. Like, Harrison Ford is Jack Ryan to me. In as much that he is Han Solo to me, in as much that he is Indiana Jones to me, he is Jack Ryan to me. That's who Jack Ryan is Harrison Ford. So I totally believe you on that. I'm totally with you on that. All right, let's go to the next tweet. And the next tweet comes to us from Official Amian, who writes, "Battlefront 2, started the story yet? Thoughts?" You know what? I still have not downloaded Battlefront 2. I meant to do it like last week. And I'll be honest with you, I'm having some hesitation. Because when I started talking about, I'm going to download Battlefront this week and blah, 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 I had a lot of people emailing me, asking me not to do it, saying EA is engaging some really shady practices with their fans, charging for this, charging for that, charging for the other thing. I mean, remember the days when you used to plop down $50 and bought a game and you got the game. You got the whole game. You bought the game, you've got the whole game now. Now the whole game's, and I'm a big mobile gaming fan. But, you know, one of the things that slowed me down on the amount of mobile games I play is that every single mobile game now is all in-app purchases. It's all the games are freemium now. And I play some freemium games and I enjoy some freemium games, but it really slowed down. I used to download like every mobile game there was and play every single mobile game. But I mean, I've slowed down because of the freemium thing. So now I'm very picky about which games I want to play. And a lot of people are really complaining about the way EA, and I haven't researched a lot, but that, I admit, I have all you guys tweet to me and saying, don't get that game because EA is screwing over fans. It made me hesitate. Now, maybe I will still download it and play it, but it has delayed me. I've been delayed from getting it because of what a lot of you guys have been telling me. So, yeah, so we'll see if I get around to it. Hopefully I will. All right, this next one is a super chat that comes in from Tyler Najera, who writes, "I know you preach about Star Wars not making movies about previous characters, but would you want Darth Maul back, or is what we got good enough?" Now, Darth Maul's story is done. They brought him back for Clone Wars, then they brought him back again in Rebels, and they brought him to an end again in Rebels. A very satisfying, good end they brought him to in Rebels. I'm done with Darth Maul. If I want to read more, if I want to know or experience more Darth Maul, I'll go read the graphic novels, the comics that they did with him. But honestly, for me, while Darth Maul is a great villain, he's a fantastic character in the Star Wars mythology, I'll be honest with you, man. For me, it's I'm Darth Mauled out. I'm ready to move on from him. I do want new stuff. So Darth Maul is definitely one of those characters that I would be like totally fine them not using. Totally fine them not using anymore. Yet you had him. He died twice. Time to let it go and move on to new stuff. All right, let's go on to the next tweet. And the next tweet comes to us from Came the Dawn XP. Love that Twitter name, by the way. John, question. How long should Warner Brothers wait to reboot the DCEU? More than 10 years? No. I think you wait a year. Look, honestly, I believe, here's the really good thing about their situation. We've got another year until the next DCEU movie comes out. Aquaman doesn't come out for another year. We've got 3 Marvel movies coming out between now and then. We've got 3 Fox X-Men Universe films coming out between now and then. There's an entire year. I think if Warner Brothers is going to reboot, just take that year, then put out Aquaman, and then launch your reboot. Launch your reboot like 7 months later, 6 months later with your Matt Reeves Batman film. You got a long time. You got a year and a half to get that ready and get that put together. I think they can do it. That's why there's no need to wait. Did they have to wait 5 years to reboot Spider-Man? No. They wait a couple years and they rebooted Spider-Man. Did they wait 10 years to reboot Hulk? No. They did wait a lot of years between Bat Nipples and Christopher Nolan's Batman, but it was fine. But it wasn't 10 years. You don't need to wait that long. You really don't. You can just come right out and launch a new one, and the audience will be perfectly fine with it. That's the way I feel about it at any rate. I think they'll be totally fine. Okay, this one is a super chat coming from Lycan Zero, who writes, the story mode in Battlefront 2 is only 4 hours. Skip it or wait for a sale, John. Even with a canon story, it's nothing important. You know what, Lycan, that's something that a few people have been telling me. A few people have been mentioning to me that, hey, you know what, the story campaign, because I'll be honest with you, I don't like multiplayer online games very much. I prefer single-player games. That's just the way I like to play. Even when I play World of Warcraft, I don't usually join parties. And I don't usually join a guild. I usually just like playing single-player, go. So obviously I don't do a lot of instances, and I don't do a lot of things like that, but I just prefer playing alone. And the main thing that got me interested in Battlefront 2 was single-player storyline. Great, yay! But then I started hearing there's not that much to it. That some people are telling me you can finish it in like 6 or 7 hours, and you're saying 4 hours. So, I mean, maybe it's even less than that. But yeah, I mean, that is another reason I've kind of hesitated getting Battlefront 2. But thank you for your input there. All right, so got time for a few more tweets here. The next tweet comes to us from Gore Obsessed, who writes, John, what is a good way for studios to lower budgets? Simple. Lower your budget. It's honestly just that simple. Instead of saying, okay, guys, you have $230 million to make this movie. Say, okay, you have $120 million to make this movie. And when they look at you and go, how can we do that? Look at them and say, well, Neil Blomkamp made District 9 for $30 million or $40 million. They just made Deadpool for like $60 million. So we're going to give you double that. Go. $120 million should be enough to make any movie in history. Stop paying your actors $20 million a film, because actors are not worth that. Stop paying this exorbitant fee and that exorbitant fee. Just be smart, take the money and do it. So what's the best way for them to do it? Just to do it. Just say, our budget's on this for $120 million. If you can't make it for that, we'll go get the next filmmaker who says they can. And then go from there. That's kind of the way I see it. All right, and I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with that, which is totally fine. That's totally cool. All right, the next one comes to us from Daniel J. Briggs 1, who writes, John, do you believe any minor character will die in Infinity War? Yes. Minor, from a local shop store owner to maybe one of the smaller characters in Black Panther coming up. I probably believe several minor characters will die, but I just don't think any major character, nor do I believe they need to have a major character die in Avengers Infinity War. Maybe in Part 4 you do, but in Avengers Part 3, I don't feel like you need to, and I don't think they will. But minor characters, sure. I could probably see 1 or 2 minor characters biting the bullet. Let's see. Next tweet comes to us from Henrielle8, who writes, John, Warner Brothers destroyed the DCEU. I don't think they destroyed the DCEU. I just think they obviously mismanaged it. I don't think anyone wants to see any more DC movies. Yes, there are. Don't think that nobody there are people out there who still want to see more DCU movies. Even if it's rebooted by them. Look, Henry, film is subjective, but in this statement, we're not talking about film. You are objectively wrong. There are lots of people out there who still want to see DC movies, rebooted or not. This whole notion that nobody wants to see this anymore, I can tell you for a fact, you are factually wrong about that, my brother. You are factually wrong. I get tweets and emails, people bitching and complaining at me just because I express some negative opinions about DC all the time. Those people want to see more DCU movies, and their wants and desires are every bit as valid as yours or mine. So I can factually tell you, you are absolutely wrong. Maybe you and your circle of friends don't want to see any more DCU movies, and that's totally fine. That's fair. But don't believe for a second that you and your circle of friends represents everybody. You don't. I hear every day from tons of people who are still really big DCEU fans and don't even want it to reboot. So there are people out there who love these films and who still want them. They may not represent the majority, but they are out there, and their opinions and wants and desires for their film entertainment is every bit as valid as yours and mine. So let's just keep that in mind. All right, I got time for just a couple more, and then we're going to call it a day on this one. This one comes to us from Film Junkie 12, who writes, John, Hostel's trailer with Christian Bale is fantastic. You know what's really sucks? I got invited to a screening of Hostels 2 nights ago, but I was previously already engaged, so I couldn't go to see it. And it was playing right up the street, too, at the Burbank 16. They did a screen there, and I couldn't get to it. But I think the trailer looks amazing. I cannot wait to see this thing. I'm not hearing any awards buzz for it, so I don't know if it's actually that good. But to me, it looks really good, so I'm really excited to see it. So I'm going to keep my eyes open for that. Let's see. This next one comes to us from Dingo Captain, writes, John, Christian Bale to return for $100 million. Is that a real offer from Warner Brothers? No, that is not real. That is not true. That is not legit in any way, shape, or form. There was the same basic kind of bullshit rumor that came out way back in the day before Man of Steel came out that Warner Brothers is offering Christian Bale $50 or $100 million to come back as Batman. It was bullshit then. It's bullshit now. It's not true. It's already been debunked. So no, Warner Brothers is not offering $100 million for Christian Bale to come back play Batman. That has not happened. So you can lay that one to rest. Let's see. Oh, this one's easy. Vafa Homeboy writes, if you had to watch one movie, Infinity War or Last Shot, fuck Infinity War. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm super excited about Infinity War. I totally am. But if you make it a choice, I don't even have to think for a half second about that. Last Jedi, all day, every day. No question about it. Easy. Easiest decision I'd ever have to make in my life. The only decision that would be easier is like, John, would you want to have this a bowl of Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter ice cream? Or would you rather eat this pile of dog shit? Well, I'd very quickly go to the Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter ice cream. But only slightly quicker than that would I tell you that I would rather see The Last Jedi over Infinity War. But I'm dying to see both. Obviously, I'm dying to see both. But yeah, that's the one for me. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Saturday morning. It's been an honor and privilege for you guys to join me for the ride today. Listen, don't forget, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. You know, just earlier this week, we crossed the 100,000 subscriber number, which is insane. And actually, like over 2,000 more people have subscribed this week. We've actually hit now 102,000 subscribers. So thank you to all you guys who have subscribed to the channel. Guys, make sure you click the thumbs up button, leave a comment in the description below or in the comment section below, leaving your thoughts on any or all the topics that we discussed here today. And remember, one of the most fun things about being film fans is engaging in some passionate, heated debate when we have different points of view. But remember, if you get into one of those debates, that you're debating with a fellow film fan, that you're all on the same side. We just have different points of view about things, but we all love film. Just remember that when you're having debates with each other and keep the name calling to a minimum. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be watching the UFC fights tonight with a bunch of friends coming over to do that. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend as well. This show will be back again tomorrow morning. Of course, don't forget, a little bit later today, my review of The Disaster Artist will drop. I'm really excited about that. So, until next time, my name's John Campea, and until then, bye-bye.